Found in a wide range of environments, pretty much everywhere, all over the continent, here in Australia. And these wild birds, they need wild places. Some of the birds that we'll be meeting today require very large old trees that can take centuries to grow, and we can lose those trees in just minutes. The first birds we'd like to introduce you to are these ones here, two very stunning looking cockatoos. The one behind me is our male, this is a female, and these are of course red-tailed black cockatoos. Males and females are really easy to tell apart just by looking at their tail feathers. The males, as I said behind me there, Pinjari, we'll see him fly off first. Have a look at his tail feathers when he does. You'll see those solid red bars that show the males. The females have a lot more striping in their tails. There we go, good look at those male tail feathers there. The females have a lot more striping in their tails, but they've also got, as well as those deep reds like the males, they've got some lighter colours as well. Some oranges and yellows too, as well as those beautiful golden specks on their faces and chests too. Now here in Australia we have 5 different species of black cockatoo, and the red-tailed black cockatoo that's found here in Victoria in the western parts of the state, they're a threatened species, and it's because of habitat loss. You can see that she's a pretty big bird, and a tree hollow big enough for a bird of this size and their offspring can take up to 200 years to form naturally, and we're losing those trees a lot faster than they can be regenerated. The other reason is that they require Australian native plants as a food source. As we get more and more introduced to exotic species of trees in the environment, great look at those tail feathers, we start to lose not only the feeding sites, but also the nesting hollows for these beautiful birds.
It's a nice opportunity to see some of those endangered species up nice and close. We're also going to have a look at some birds today that are a success story out there in the wild. And these are birds that have learned to live in close proximity to people. So you'll often see them in parks and gardens, even in our busy city streets. You've met one species of cockatoo so far today, but I'm going to wager that if I say the word cockatoo, there is probably one species that's at the front of most of your minds. This is a really large white bird about to join us now. You may have seen these birds before, but maybe not quite from this angle. Have a look underneath her wings and see if you can spot the soft yellow feathers in there. It's their beautiful crest that gives this bird its name. This is a sulphur-crested cockatoo. This one's name is Quasi. And these are a really long-lived bird. They can live up to 100 years. They also are the loudest of the entire parrot family. So a jet engine can reach 140 decibels, and a single cockatoo can reach 135 decibels. Now, parrots are mostly vegetarians. Today we're also going to have a look at some meat-eating birds, a special group of birds of prey called raptors. Raptors all catch their food with their feet, so they've all got really strong feet with sharp talons and a curved meat-tearing beak. We're going to start off our raptors today with one that's really small and really fast, so if you have your camera ready, good luck with that. We're going to meet the smallest raptor of all in Australia. This is the Australian kestrel. This one's name is Rusty. She's fully grown, but she only weighs about 140 grams, so that's about as heavy as your phone. And kestrels belong to the falcon family. They've got neat blade-shaped wings that gives them really good turning and cornering abilities in the open air. They can also change the shape and the angle of their tail to brake and manoeuvre in flight as well. So they're really agile, active little hunters. And they can hunt insects like dragonflies, which they're able to catch right out of midair. They also hunt tiny little birds, small reptiles, mice. All of that active hunting takes a lot of energy. So these are a little bit like the sports cars of the bird world. They move really fast, they burn a lot of fuel. So you'll often see them perched up on a nice high vantage point, and they're just letting their eyesight do the work for them. They've got really good eyesight, so they can pop themselves up on a nice tall tree or a power pole and just wait for their prey to reveal themselves, bide their time, and once they spot it, they're really skilled at being able to dive down and grab it quite quickly. If they don't have a nice perch to sit on, they do actually have another method of hunting that looks really distinctive, so it's actually a good way to identify this species in the wild. And that behaviour is hovering. And hovering is a pretty complex manoeuvre. We'll see whether Rusty wants to show us a hover today. If she does, I'm going to throw a piece of food up in the air to reward her, and we'll see whether she can catch that in midair. But she does first of all need to get herself fairly high up in the sky, and she hasn't started herself off very high. So we'll see how she goes. What they've got to calculate is they actually need to face into the direction of the wind. I can't even see her behind that rock. That's how small she is. I know she's back there. She went back there a second ago. Yep, there she is. So she needs to get herself pretty high up, face into the wind, and then she beats her wings to hold her position in the sky so that her head stays relatively still. It's sort of like making a perch in mid-air. It's like treading water in the air as well. And they are able to do that in any weather conditions, so they can hover on a still day or a windy day. I tell you what though, she doesn't look very keen right now. I reckon she's just decided, I just want to take it easy today. And that's okay, she always has a choice in these matters. So if she just wants to have nice low flights today, that's totally okay with us. That was Rusty, the Australian kestrel. She did an amazing job. Thank you so much for that. Now, if you're curious about the training that we do with our animals, we train using positive reinforcement, and we train for a lot of different reasons. And I'm going to actually give you a little bit of a look behind the scenes and do a real training session in front of you here. So this is not a finished behaviour. We'll see how it goes. We train so that our animals are able to voluntarily participate in their own healthcare. So if there's a treatment or a procedure that needs to happen, we can give the animals a choice to opt in, and then a way to communicate their consent to us. So we can see from their body language whether they're saying stop or go ahead, and that's much better for the animal. The bird we're going to have a look at next, he was not suitable for release. He was brought in with a broken wing, and the vets treated his wing, but he had some ongoing health issues that he needed a bit of help managing here. This is a long-billed corella. His name is Kevin, and we often train our birds to display different parts of their body for a little bit of a health check. So if I need to see the bird's wings, I can ask him to show me his wings. And then I can also ask to have a look at each of his feet. And if I need to look at all of his feathers, I can ask him to turn all the way around for me so I can have a look at the whole bird. Well done, buddy. We also train many of our birds to step onto our hand, and that looks really basic, but it's useful for a lot of reasons. It's really easy to move him from one place to another, but it also forms the first consent signal when we start every training session. We're basically asking our birds, do you want to train or do you want to do a presentation? And they can say no by staying on that perch, and if they want to say yes, it's really clear to both of us that they're joining us. Now, I want you to have a really good look at Kevin, because in a minute we're going to have a look at another individual of the same species, and there's a couple of differences between them, and our training sessions are tailored for the individuals. So Kevin's got a normal long-billed corella beak. The top part of his beak hangs down over the bottom part by about 1 centimetre. It comes to a nice sharp point. They use that to dig for their food in the wild. So have one last look at Kev. We're going to send him home. And we're going to talk about another bird who actually has a special beak that continues to grow and grow. And in the wild, she wouldn't be able to survive with that. But we're able to set up a training plan here with her to help manage that condition. So our vets have advised us that her beak actually requires filing or trimming, kind of like trimming your dog's nails. Now, in the past, they might have achieved that by restraining a bird, but that's not the way we want to do training here. We can do better than that. We want to set up a way that our birds can tell us when they want it to happen, and also to stay nice and still. So if you have a look here, there's a little attachment on the front of this perch, a little piece of wood. This is her beak rest. So she can hold onto that, and it keeps her beak in exactly the right place for the filing to happen, but it's also a really clear way of her saying start and stop. Every time she wants me to start, she hangs on. And anytime she wants me to stop, all she has to do is take her beak off and we'll stop. So she controls the pace of the whole thing. And the filing that we use is actually a power file. It's a Dremel. And this is something that she is used to, and we've done a lot of work with her out the back. So let's bring Fergie out here, and you'll notice straight away that she has got that different beak that just needs a little bit of extra care. This is Kevin's girlfriend. This is Fergie, the long-billed corella. Well done, buddy. I'm going to start off with a couple of easy behaviours just to get into the swing of the training. So I'll ask Fergie to turn around for me. Good job, girl. And then when I stand over here, that's me saying I'm ready for beak filing if you are. And she looks pretty ready to me. So every time she puts her beak on that, she's saying, yep, I'm happy for you to get going. And I can touch that on her beak and give her a little reward. Now, because it's early in the training session, it's not actually about how long it's touching her beak for. It's about how nice and still she is, because we want that really good positioning to move forwards. And I'm not really concerned about how much time it spends, as long as she's happy to keep going. And every time she keeps reoffering, that means she wants a little bit more done. And anytime she doesn't feel comfy, she'll back off. So you might be able to hear that that Dremel is running now. That's filing off a tiny little bit of her beak. Good job. And I'm really happy with that. We can keep that nice and short. I'll just give her a couple of simple behaviours at the end. Do you want to show me your right foot? Good job, girl. What about your left foot? Nice, well done. So that was a really good training session. That's a real training session. That's Fergie, the long-billed corella. That's how we take care of her beak.
You might know that in the world of Australian parrots, it's usually males that are brighter compared to females, with females usually being quite dull in colour. And they're usually the browns and greys and dark greens, but with this next bird, that's not the case. The females are just as bright, just as colourful as the males, but they're actually a completely different colour. The next bird we'd like to introduce you to is a male eclectus parrot, and his name is Les. Eclectus parrots like Les are found up in tropical far north Queensland, and it's the male's job to spend most of their time sitting in the top of those rainforest trees foraging for food. Now you can see when he's flying around here, he's a very beautiful looking bird. His colours aren't just there to look good though, they're actually vital for his survival. And that's because when he's sitting at the top of those trees foraging for his food, he could be vulnerable to being essentially eaten by things like wild birds of prey flying up above, looking down for a nice feathery snack. And so with those beautiful green colours, now that he's sitting on my hand, you can see all those colours disappear. He becomes a very plain green bird. That's exactly what he wants to have happen. Amongst those green leaves in the top of those rainforest trees, he becomes nearly invisible. So those predators can't actually find him. Now you saw already, but underneath his wings, actually it just started gusting a bit windy. There we go. Underneath his wings he does have some pretty cool colours, and that's what the females usually see when they look up at these birds. And that's because the females aren't usually at the top of the canopies like the males. And that's why they're a different colour. The females will spend around 8 months of every year. I'll come when you're ready. Oh, there we go. The females, they'll spend around 8 months of every year defending their nesting hollows from other female eclectus parrots. So to blend in down lower in the shadows, they're actually a dark red and blue colour with a completely black beak. Very different to this green bird on my hand. So males and females are a very, very different colour. But even though he does have some of those beautiful colours underneath his wings, they actually play no role in mate selection, as is with the case for a lot of other Australian parrot species. With most Australian parrots, it's the biggest, brightest male that gets the females, but with this parrot, the colour is just so vital to their survival that that's just simply not the case. Instead, it's the male who brings the female the yummiest food. So during the breeding season, males like Les will be going around collecting the best food they can find, taking that straight back home to their girlfriends, but then visiting several other females each day doing the same thing. But don't worry too much about the females, they're also being visited by sometimes up to 5 different males every day, trying their luck, trying to bring them the most of the best food that they can find, which sounds alright, it evens out in the end, I think. But we've met a very colourful bird that uses its colour to actually blend in. The next bird in our presentation does the same thing, but for a different colour scheme. Instead being pretty deliberately drab, this is a very different kind of bird to our parrots. This is a nocturnal or a nighttime bird of prey, which you can probably work out by looking at her. She is one of Australia's beautiful owl species. This is Millie, and Millie is a barking owl, and she loves this space in the arena, so you picked well. And you can see as she's come out here, she's a very neutral colour palette. That's so she can blend in nice, and as I said, this handrail is her favourite spot. So you can see she blends in really, really well to the wooden parts of the forest. So not so much up nice and high in the trees like our eclectus parrot, but down lower, closer to the trunks of those trees, where she's using her camouflage to hide away not only from predators, but also from prey as well. Now you can see those 2 very big, beautiful eyes on the front of her face there. That's what she uses to find her food. Owls like Millie have incredible vision, and they see a lot better than you or I, but they do see the world in black and white. They've given up their ability to see in colour, but in doing so, they can see in incredible detail and distance with a focus on movement in the forest. Now you can see Millie, she's looking around quite a lot there. She's showing us just how important vision is to an owl like her. These birds are what we call our early warning system because they often see things a lot sooner than we can find them. Quite often when she's looking around like this, it could be half an hour before we actually see what she can actually see. Their vision is absolutely incredible. And so they're looking for movement in the forest. The movement they're looking for is their prey, things like rodents such as rats and mice, possums, gliders, even other birds are on the menu for a barking owl. And at the last minute when she does find their food, when she does find her food rather, She'll throw her feet forward and she'll catch her food with those sharp claws or talons on the end of her toes. You can hear that little chirpy sound she's making. That's a bit of a happy noise for a barking owl. That's the noise she's making when she's getting some of her favourite food. And if she was in hunting mode, she would be completely silent. With the name barking owl, you can probably imagine there is another sound they make. They do have a call that sounds just like a small dog barking. That's mostly during the breeding season, with males having a lower note in that duet. The other sound they make is a blood-curdling scream that sounds very human-like if something is attacking either her or her nest. And that's resulted in a number of phone calls to the police by confused farmers who heard that sound in their back paddocks, only for police to arrive and find a pair of barking owls in those back paddocks. This is Millie the barking owl.
She did a great job, didn't she? She flew super close. I saw a couple of people who I was pretty impressed, just were stayed completely stock still when she flew over them. And I can give everyone else a little bit of a pointer for the next time you visit. The lower you duck, the lower she is going to fly. If this is your first time visiting today, you might not realise it, but every presentation is different. We have the ability to fly different birds each time. And the reason for that is that we allow our birds to choose whether or not they would like to participate. So we've kind of adjusted our expectations a little bit, and we never promise any particular bird on any day. I really like it though, because we're putting the birds in control by giving the birds that choice. There is one more raptor I'm hoping to introduce you to today. Just before that bird joins us though, I wanted to take a quick moment to say thank you so much for visiting today. There is nothing more you need to do. We just wanted to let you know how thankful we are, because we have programs here to breed and release mammals like Tassie devils and leadbeater's possums, some of the world's most endangered birds like orange-bellied parrots and helmeted honeyeaters. We've got breeding programs for threatened reptiles and for frogs, and we couldn't do any of that without your support. And in particular, I wanted to acknowledge our members, some of whom have stood by us for many years, and I hope the members that are with us today are enjoying the benefits of that membership. Thank you, Patty. Thank you so much. So that's Callista, that's the mate of Quasi that we saw earlier on today. Pinjari, our red-tailed black cockatoo, making a little bit of an encore. Both of these species of cockatoo have got mobile feathers on the top of their head that they can raise and lower for communication and expression. It's a really good way for them to communicate with other birds visually over long distances. Now we are going to have a look at our final raptor today, which is a bird that's bigger than Millie the barking owl. We're going to have a look at Australia's third largest raptor, the black-breasted buzzard. This one's name is Beatrice the black-breasted buzzard. She's a bit of a tongue twister. She belongs to the category called broad-winged raptors. So unlike the kestrel that we saw earlier, these birds have got a massive wingspan. They can reach up to 1.5 meters wide, and those feathers at the edge spread out and look a little bit like fingertips while they're flying. They're really good at soaring and gliding over long distances without very much effort on their behalf. They're also pretty comfortable and coordinated down on the ground though, and that's pretty unusual for raptors. That's because black-breasted buzzards do a lot of their hunting on the ground. They eat a lot of different animals, and they're happy to eat things that they find that are already dead. What they're famous for though is raiding the nests of other birds. So they eat the eggs and the chicks that they find, and they can swallow little eggs whole. If they find a bigger egg like a duck egg, they can pick it up and drop it, and that cracks the shell for them. And they have developed a totally different strategy for the biggest eggs of all that are laid by the emu, and they look a little bit like this one here. Now, this is not a real one, it's a replica. It's 3D printed, it gives you an idea of the size and the colour. It's way too big for her to pick up. It's also got a really thick shell that she can't break through with her beak. So if she sees one in the wild, she looks for a way to break into it. So watch the bird. She's picked up a rock, she's carried it over. She's going to light it up. Oh, smashes her first go. How great is that? Good job, girl, you've done it. Well done. She's used that rock as a tool to smash through that thick emu egg shell, and that would provide enough food for a buzzard for about 3 or 4 days. It's really worthwhile for her. That was Beatrice, the black-breasted buzzard. She did an amazing job. Thank you. Now, if you are thinking that maybe it's just a trick that we taught that bird, we actually didn't even need to teach that behaviour. It's instinctive. All black-breasted buzzards know exactly how to break into emu eggs the very first time they see one. They don't even learn it from their parents. And because they're found about 1,000 kilometres from here in Central Australia, we really hope you enjoyed having the opportunity to meet Beatrice and all of the other spirits of the sky today.
Thanks for visiting. We hope you enjoy your afternoon here at Healesville Sanctuary.
Thank you.
Thank you.